the collection kind of came from this idea of wanting to look at very like traditional garments and kind of deconstructing them, and also really playing with volume. The first instinct that I had when I started working on the collection was that I really wanted it to be about movement and about these kind of cocooning shapes. So you have this whole kind of group of like very soft sculptural pieces, this whole kind of cocooning and protective garment is something that is worked throughout the entire collection. I played around a lot with this idea of things that are looped, where you really have like sort of a protective garment on the outside, and if you wear it sort of closed, it creates this kind of almost like a bubble shape, but then you can also unloop it and it becomes another garment. And I was really loving also the idea of kind of the inside of garments and how things are constructed and putting it on the outside, which is why there are kind of, I was interested in all these loops and things that you find, grosgrain tapes that you find on the inside of like very couture dresses, but putting it on a kind of very loose men's shirt. Victorian men's shirts always have these really interesting kind of panels of like faggoting or pleating, which I think would be really interesting to play with. So this is this sort of what I've been calling the MultiButton Group, but it's this idea of kind of pushing deconstruction. Like it has buttons down the entire sleeve and down the top. It has buttons on sort of both raglans, and then buttons down all the way down the side, and then in the front. It's almost like you could kind of just take the entire thing apart. And then I loved, that idea of all of these grosgrains and ribbons that you would usually find on the inside of a very traditional kind of couture dress, and how it sort of is all displayed on the outside. And then there was this really beautiful bra, which I found, which had this kind of unusual closure. And there was something kind of, I don't know if it was because of Dune and that idea of like strapping in those costumes, but also the idea of kind of exposing things which are normally hidden. But I kind of loved the idea that you could like button a bra kind of on the outside of the dress. There is this idea of, things that are hidden and then that are revealed. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So this piece is a blazer in the MultiButton story. And so, I think what I want to sort of achieve is this idea of, this kind of multi-textured effect of like leather and grosgrain and crepe de chine straps, and they're all kind of like intertwined and like sort of kept together with these loops. So the shape of the jacket itself is it's a wider shoulder. I still want them to put like all of the traditional kind of menswear
construction on the inside, like the horsehair and the like all of that fusible. And it's really like taking the idea of the deconstruction from the shirting and applying it to the tailoring. And I think what's kind of interesting about the jacket is that you have this like, you know, kind of bigger shape, but it's, you know, constricted, like the volume is really constricted in the middle by like all of these straps. And that really comes from like that inspiration that we looked at of like bra straps or like, you know, the back of a bra. And actually the center of it is this bra closure. So maybe we can talk to Janice about sourcing something kind of similar to this. But they sort of, the straps will kind of loop through that center, loop through this like center closure, which I circled here.
Okay, cool, yeah, I see that.
You know, I think that oftentimes when I'm sort of thinking about the collection, I think of it as a narrative. Like there is this definite, there's like a story that you're telling yourself. And I think in my mind, you know, it sort of starts out with this very controlled kind of volume, whether it's in tailoring where you have these bigger volumes that are very controlled and almost and actually like almost kind of restrained in a way, because you have all of these like ties and straps and buttons that are kind of keeping it contained. And as I think I work on the collection and the arc of the collection becomes more apparent, I was interested in kind of loosening the control and sort of having the volume become just freer. And so in a way, like it's like this dress it relates to the buckling and to the strapping in that it's like the kind of undone version of it. It's like the released version of it, where in the strappings and in the in the buckling, everything is sort of held together. And what I like about these and about some of the draped pieces is that they're really like they feel very free. Like they're sort of just like they're just kind of like released, which I like. I think is really it feels kind of like cathartic in a way. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the idea for the sustainable group. So basically they're all from our like dead stock, right?
Yeah. It's a good way to use leftover fabric without creating more waste or chemical products and things like that.
Right. Because the only issue is like we're limited in fabrics, right?
Exactly. It's probably easiest for us to do it as a retail exclusive so that we don't have to deal with, wholesale orders coming in and trying to fit certain orders into the quantities that we have.
Yeah.
And it could be something really special for our stores as well.
Maybe, Marta, we could, because I think I don't know, it could be sort of interesting as like, if we're talking about this as a capsule. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, Vic, but like it could be nice to do, something like this kind of vibe.
Love that. Super easy and super accessible. Like I feel like that's great for the fabric and great for the knit. We could even maybe think about like we do a lot of twin sets. Like that's
yeah.
Like we could play up to that idea a little bit in this.
Yeah, like have a tank and then like a cardigan.
For sure, especially if it's going to be our exclusive, I feel like that plays into our very Altuzarra aesthetic.
Yeah. I especially want to talk about the rib group, just to see where we are on that group.
So this one has been stretched and pulled out onto the linker, and you can see you have this much more of a curve.
Yeah.
This one has actually been knitted all in one piece. So
Oh.
this is actually half cardigan, and then it goes straight into the knit. This does mean that this is like a little bit more bulky and a bit more jellyfish-like. I know that's not a technical term.
But the third one is integral too, right?
The third one is integral too. It's just that you don't get the bow quite as much. So we'd swap to the second option in order to like control the bow a little bit more.
So it's gonna be, wait, I'm just drawing it out. It's gonna be like a little more.
It's gonna have a more of a swinging, swooshy movement rather than jingly jangly movement rather than like a bowing horsehair skirt. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like more this vibe.
Yes.
Okay, got
Yes.
it. Yeah, I think I'm into that. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
guys.
Ciao.
Bye.
Okay. And this group really, there's this kind of specific technique that I've been thinking about, which is essentially kind of like a heat press machine. And so it's not like sort of a regular pleat. You're actually creating these, almost like these like little ledges. It's a very kind of jellyfish-like technique, so that it sort of almost feels like, it has this slight undulation, which I think is kind of interesting. And they're really kind of like just packed up, up against your neck, and like this technique is kind of all stitched together, and then they just kind of degrade down. I feel like you could get this very beautiful, almost like a jellyfish effect. I wanted to also launch today this piece. So I know we talked about this a little bit, about wanting to develop like a specific kind of pleating that would involve like a kind of a heat press. The way that this ideally would be constructed is that at the neck they all kind of are sort of held together by like, probably underneath there needs to be either like a tape or a grosgrain, and then they would sort of just like fan out. And the dress is really just held, like the top is held to the skirt portion at the waist. So the construction is almost just like a top and skirt that have been kind of like stitched together and that just become a dress. So fairly simple. And then hopefully like we can get that kind of, undulating line, which from the heat press, which I think will be really nice.
Yeah, we've launched trials in different fabric weights too, to see how each one takes the heat pressed and how crisp the line can be. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, perfect. I think that the idea right now of just making clothes just to make product isn't that interesting to me. I think it's more interesting to make clothes that feel emotional, but that also I think that people have a relationship with and can wear.